Good morning. Today, myself, Dr. Surbhi, Assistant Professor in the Department of Zoology, School of Basic and Applied Sciences, Maharaja Agastyan University, Baddi. Today, we are going to discuss about the skeletal system. So, what is skeletal system? The hard parts in our body, collectively known as skeletal system, or you can also say it's skeleton. It is of two types, exoskeleton and endoskeleton. Exoskeleton means that includes the hard parts that cover our body, like scales, feathers, hair, claws, nails, horns, hooves, and it is going to develop from the epidermis and it is often dead in nature. Now, second is the endoskeleton. It is the hard part that lie inside the body. It includes cartilage and bones. They are living tissue and they develop from the deeper layer of the mesoderm. Now, there are three types of bones: cartilage or replacing bone, membrane or investing or dermal bone, and last are the sesamoid bones. Talking first about the cartilage or replacing bones, these are formed by the ossification of cartilaginous endoskeleton. The bone cells of mesoderm layer, they are going to invade our cartilage. They gradually eat up the cartilage and produce a bone in its place. Next is the membrane bones. They are formed by the ossification in the dermis of skin and they sink below to get attached with the underlying cartilaginous endoskeleton. Sesamoid bones, they develop in the tendons at the joints where the additional strength is required. Now, what are the functions of the skeletons? It forms a rigid framework which gives support, proper shape to the body. It encloses and protects our vital organs. It furnishes hard surface for the attachment of muscles. Blood cells are produced in the bone marrow cells, that is the limb bones and their bone marrow. Now, this very skeleton is divisible into two divisions, the axial as well as the appendicular. The axial one, it lies along the principal axis of the body. It includes skull, vertebral column, sternum, and ribs. Next is the appendicular. This skeleton lies along the two transfer axes, one just behind the head and the another one just in front of the anal aperture. It includes girdles, that is the pelvic and pectoral girdles, and limb bones, which include hind limbs as well as the forelimbs. Now, first is our skull, that is known as cranium. It is divisible into two types, cranium and visceratus. Cranium, which includes the brain, which is a special sense organs, and visceratus, it is going to form the jaws and framework or the pharyngeal walls. Now, this very diagram showing the development of a skull. As you see in this very diagram, firstly on the right, on the top, there are one pair of olfactory pit, which are enclosed by the olfactory capsules. Below this, there is a presence of optic cup, that is for the visual sensation, and it is covered by the optic capsule. Behind these, there are two precaudal plates are present. Now below this, for the listening sensation, auditory vesicle is present and it is enclosed by the auditory capsule on both sides. So one pair of olfactory capsule, optic capsule and auditory capsules are there. Now in between the notochords is present and on the sides of this paired occipital vertebrae are present. Now, what happened during the development? These precaudal and paracaudal plates plus the notochord and these occipital vertebrae, they are going to fuse. As you see in next very diagram, due to fusion of the olfactory cups, there is a formation of a rostrum. Then these precaudal plates also get fused and there is left a large opening. As you see, it is a drop-like structure. This very opening is known as hypophyseal fenestra. And due to the fusion of auditory capsule and the notochord and the occipital vertebrae, This plate-like structure is formed, which is known as basal plate. And here also a small opening left, which is known as basicranial fenestra. So in this way, these bones gets fused during the development of skull. Now, what are the visceral arches? They develop round anterior part of the embryonic gut from the migrating cells of the neural crest. It is mainly of 7 types. The names are, first is the, which are our lower and upper jaw. It is the mandibular arch. It is divisible into 2 jaws, that is upper jaw, which is known as plateau-quadrate, and the lower jaw, which is known as mandible. Second is the hyoid arch. It is known as hyomandibular. Next is the 5 branchial arches, and they are same in structure and shape and divisible into 4 parts. The upper one is known as pharyngobranchials. Next is the epibranchial. Third one is the ceratobranchial, and last small part is known as the hypobranchials. So these are the 7 pairs of visceral arches which are present. Now, what are the arrangement of jaw, or you can say what are the different jaw suspension present in different vertebrates? So coming to these are of 6, 7 types. First is the autodiastolic. As you see in this very diagram, the plateau quadrate, that is the upper jaw, it is going to attach with this very part of cranium with the help of ligaments. As you see, these 3 pairs of ligaments are present, and the hyoid arch, it is set free. It's 3 parts of the hyoid arch. They are prehyomandibular, ceratohyoid, and basihyoid. So this type of jaw suspension is present as in case of autodiastolic. Diastolic. Next is the amphicystolic. In this, what happens? There is the attachment of upper jaw with the cranium with the help of basal process, as you see in this very diagram. There is also formation of otic process. The upper jaw is going to insert in the cranium, and the hyoid arch, it is also going to attach with the lower jaw with the help of basal process, or you can say ligaments. Next type is the hyosystolic type. Here, the upper jaw and the cranium, there is no connection, but yes, the hyoid arch is attached with the lower jaw. So this is the arrangement in case of hyosystolic jaw suspension. Next is the mythosystolic. Here, the upper jaw is completely fused with the cranium, and this part is known as palatine. There is formation of metathyroid, symplectic, quadrate, and articular bone. Next is the holocystylic. Here, the upper jaw is completely fused with the cranium, and there is a formation of quadrate bone. So this type of jaw suspension is known as holocytic. Next is the autosystolic. Here, the upper jaw is fused with the cranium, and there is a formation of new bone, that is the epipterygoid. And the hyoid arch, it is going to converted into stapes, that is also the ear bone. There is formation of quadrate as well as the articular bone. And this type of jaw suspension is known as autosystolic type. Next is the craniosystolic type. It is present in human beings. Here, the upper jaw is attached with the cranium with the help of sphenoid. There is formation of stapes, incus, and millis, the 3 bones of our ear, and the hyoid arch below it is free. So these are the 3 or 4 types of jaw suspension present in different vertebrates. So now, what is vertebral column? It is situated in the mid-dorsal line of trunk and tail. It consists of row of distinct units which are known as vertebrae. The vertebral column is preceded in the embryo by axial supporting rod, which is known as notochord, and it is present in all vertebrates. The notochord lies between the spinal cord and the alimentary canal. The vertebral column formed by the skeleton forming the mesodermal cells, which are derived from the inner region of the somites. These mesodermal cells, they gather around the notochord and the spinal cord in the form of a continuous but segmented tube called pericaudal tube and perineural tube. These are the paired processes known as hemal ridges that grows out from the side of pericaudal tube. The segments of pericaudal tube, perineural tube, and hemal ridges, they produce a centra, neural, and transfer processes by the help of a procedure that is chondrification. In cartilaginous and lungfishes, the skeleton-forming cells invades the notochord and largely replace it by the process known as centrum. This is called caudal centrum, or the vertebrae with such centra are known as chondrocentres. In other vertebrates, this centrum develops around the notochord, so-called pericaudal centrum, and the vertebrae with such centra called archicentres. The different forms of centers varies in different vertebrates. As you've seen in this very diagram, the procellus type, it is present in frogs and lizards, that are the reptiles, and Ophistocoelus, it is also present in reptiles but among the salamanders. Amphicoelus, present in the fishes and amphibians, that is shark and frog. Acoelus, again in amphibians, in frogs. Platycelus, it is present in case of mammals. Coeloplaton in some mammals, and Amphiplaton in case of rabbits, and Heterocoelus in case of fowls. So these are the different forms of centrum present in the different vertebrae. Now about the vertebral column. The vertebrae always develop processes for the insertion of muscles. So their arrangement depend upon the form of body muscles. These processes are transfer processes that lie horizontally separating the dorsal and ventral portion of myotomal muscles. Next are the limbs. Pentadactyl limbs typically occur in two pairs, that are the forelimbs and hind limbs. Both have similar segments supported by the similar bones. This picture showing both the bones of both the forelimbs and the hind limbs. As you see, in case of hind limb, the upper bone, that is the thigh bone, it is known as femur. And in case of arm, that is the forelimbs, it is known as humerus. Its upper part is known as head. Next is shaft and trochlea in case of forelimb, and condyle in case of hind limb. Next two are the tibia and ulna, or tibia and fistula, and ulna and radius, depending upon the type of limb. Now coming more towards the downside, in case of forelimbs, proximal carpuscles, central carpuscles, and distal carpuscles are present. But in case of hind limbs, they are known as proximal tarsals, central tarsals, and distal tarsals. Now coming more below, these are the metacarpals in case of forelimbs and metatarsals in case of hind limbs. Next are the phalanges. So the name of bones are same in case of both forelimbs and hind limbs, that are the phalanges. So these are the bones which are present in hind limbs and forelimbs. Next are the girdles. These are the paired appendages that articulate with the axial skeleton by the means of girdles, known as shoulder or pectoral girdle in case of pectoral fins and forelimbs, pelvic girdle or hip girdle in case of pelvic fins and hind limbs. Pectoral girdle is attached to vertebral column through muscles and ligaments. Pelvic girdle is directly attached to the vertebral column in the sacral region. Each girdle consists of two similar halves, each formed of three bones: dorsal, ventral, and anteroventral. As you see in this very diagram, the first one, it is of pelvic girdle. It has three bones: scapula, clavicle, and coracoid. And these are articulated in the clinoid cavity with the help of humerus bone, which is a bone of forelimb. Next is the pelvic girdle. Diagram of pelvic girdle. The three bones are ilium, pubis, and ischium, and these three are articulated in the cavity known as acetabulum, and the bone is femur in case of hind limbs. So these are the both types of girdle present in hind limb as well as in forelimb. Thank you. Hopefully you will like the video.